Alright everybody, welcome back to Conquering Commander. Today we're going to be talking about my Xenagos God of Revels deck. For the complete deck list, go to puremtgo.com, look up my article series Conquering Commander. You should see it written up like this. It'll be out on Friday, and there's the deck list right there. I will have the link to this article in the video description when the article comes out on Friday. Still in the process of actually writing this article, but Xenagos was the god that actually interested me the most when I saw the Born of the Gods previews and stuff like that. Just because he seems like a perfect Gruul commander. He gives one creature haste and he makes it twice as big. And problem was when I actually started building around Xenagos, it was a little more difficult to do than I first thought, because you want to make sure that the damage gets through with your creatures, and therefore that meant either trample or flying. Well, with flying we've got dragons, but they all kind of cost a lot of mana, and there's a lot of mid-range tramplers, but you're not getting a bunch of bang for your buck if you're turning a 4/4 into an 8/8. And so it was tough for me initially to really think about how to, because it seemed like it was turning into a Stonebrow deck, and that just wasn't good. Then I figured out that probably the better way to go about doing it was to cheat in extremely large, scary dudes. And so that made it a little more palatable. In my eyes, at least, in terms of like how I was going to build it and what I was going to do. Xenagos himself, I did actually occasionally attack with him, but it was much better just to use his ability. His indestructibility doesn't mean that he's always going to be on the table as well. He is difficult to deal with, but people are running to Glamour out there, and they are running stuff like Primal Command and All Is Dust, so he won't always stay on the table. But even still, you want some big beefy dudes to get out there. So let's start off with the number one guy that I really wanted to play with, which was Worldspine Worm. He's an 11 mana, 15/15 trampler that leaves 5/5s behind when he dies. And that's just, if you go from 15/15 to 30/30 trampler with Xenagos out there, that's just going to bring a world of pain. Other big boys we have are Deus of Calamity, who couples his trample with some land destruction, and can also turn Xenagos into a dude. Malignus is a one-hit kill if they don't have a blocker with Xenagos out there, so that's fun. If they do have a blocker, it's still going to hurt them a lot if you can give him trample. There is some trample enabling in here as well. Putrefax is another one-hit kill that I stuck in here as more of an experiment, and the two times I did play him, people didn't seem to mind him. One time I was able to kill a control player who had like 115 or 130 life, and everybody was kind of tired of the control player's antics, and I managed to kill him with Putrefax, and everybody was like, wow, that was good. And even the control guy was like, well, good, very nice job. So your mileage may vary with this card. We've also got Vorapede, which is vigilant and has trample and undying. Balefire Dragon is really big and is usually able to handle most people's armies, at least ground-based armies. Dragon Tyrant is a huge monstrosity. If you're able to pump him a couple times, you can get like an 18/18 trampling flying double striker, and it's just amazing. He's just a truly astounding beast. And then finally we've got Kozilek, and I never actually attacked with Kozilek in this deck. Kozilek is in here mainly to act as a way to shuffle your graveyard back into your library. You can draw an insane amount of cards with this deck, and you just don't want to deck yourself, and really Kozilek's in there for that. Yes, he is a good attacker on his own, so if you find it necessary to use him that way, feel free. Now most of these guys are really unwieldy to cast, and therefore what you want to do is find ways to kind of cheat them into play. Number one is Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack's amazing. You can usually hit with somebody with like World Spine Worm once, and then sacrifice at the end of turn. Because of cards like Sneak Attack, it's beneficial to find ways to sacrifice your dudes for fun and profit, and we'll talk about those later. We've also got Natural Order, which can sneak World Spine Worm into play when you sacrifice something like Wood Elves or Yavimaya Elder. Elvish Piper is not a bad way to sneak stuff into play. Garruk, Call of Beasts, only works for green creatures, but can also put creatures into your hand as well. And then Tooth and Nail, obviously, is another way to get stuff directly into play and to search stuff up if you have the right amount of mana. Now, when talking about some sacrificial effects, Bloodshot Cyclops is a nice way to throw like a huge World Spine Worm at somebody after you've attacked. And there's he's not bad as an attacker as well if he's by himself, but mainly he's in there to throw stuff at people. And then Stalking Vengeance really likes it when things die. So, having a 30/30 World Spine Worm die is awesome when you have Stalking Vengeance out there. Just looking at these cards, this deck can throw out a massive amount of damage at people. So it kind of comes out of nowhere. And, it's interesting. I've only run into one other guy playing a Xenagos deck, and he had a lot of similar cards. So I'm thinking that this is going to be it's not a popular archetype, and I'm not really sure why it's not more popular. Yeah, I don't know. Alright, now looking at card draw, Hunter's Prowess gives a power and toughness boost plus trample. It does cost 5 mana, but it's worth it. Momentous Fall is good for sacrificing after you sneak attack something and gaining life. Greater Goods, another sack outlet. Drum Hunter is like a slower Phyrexian Arena that can tap for mana in this deck. Hunter's Insight is great as well. Wheel of Fortune, another way. Sometimes you're going to run out of cards in hand, and the wheel's going to help you refill it. And then we've got Sylvan Library to help dig a little bit and draw painfully if necessary. Another way that Xenagos works well is with extra attacks. If you multiply your attack steps, Xenagos gets to be used more than once. So if you have a 5/5 Trampler and you Xenagos him twice, all of a sudden he turns into a 20/20 Trampler that gets to attack multiple times. So we've got Savage Beating, which works well with the double strike, Relentless Assault, and Aggravated Assault. I'll admit I didn't use Aggravated Assault that much. If you want a replacement card, I guess I would do Seize the Day. And Seize the Day is pretty good, honestly, with I'm pretty sure it's a sorcery, isn't it? Let's see. Seize the Day. It didn't quite make the cut on my deck. Yeah, there it is. Seize the Day. That's a good card. Because I liked the ability to attack with multiple creatures again and again with Aggravated Assault, but your mileage may vary, and Seize the Day has better artwork. And so feel free to go ahead and go with that if you want. Now we have a couple of like random sort of fat stuff that is fat and sometimes isn't. Bortusk Liege obviously has trample and can pump your dudes. He pumps Xenagos as well and helps contribute towards Xenagos' worship stuff. Urabrask, people are like, well, why do you need haste if Xenagos gives your dudes haste? Well, Urabrask gives all your creatures haste, number one. And number two, it also taps down opponents' creatures so that they have to take longer to provide blockers. So Urabrask is just a good stuff, dude. Chameleon Colossus can be really big, really fast, and the protection from black is awesome. Dragon Master Outcast is just good because even with just him, you can give the dragon he pumps out haste and double his size, so it's a 10/10 hasty flyer every turn if the Dragon Master is just out there by himself. Wilderness Elemental can get crazy big. For 3 mana, even if it's just like a 5/3 for 3 mana with trample, that turns him into like a 10/7 with Xenagos out there, and it's just a very efficiently costed creature. Now there's other ways to make sure and benefit your guys. We have a couple of Trampler trample enablers with Skarg, Kessig Wolf Run, Archetype of Aggression, which is nicely costed, and Nylea, which also can pump your dudes if necessary. Genesis is a nice utility guide to get your stuff back from your graveyard. Ogre Battle Driver, again, another haste enabler, but also a power enabler as well. So I liked him. Eternal Witness, more recursion. Soul's Fire works well with your really big dudes. It's sort of like Fling. I didn't include Fling because I had a few too many ways to sacrifice my dudes, but Soul's Fire worked really well. And then Mage Slayer is an I wouldn't say it's an underappreciated card, but it worked really well in this deck. Like, attacking with a 12/12 means that you're automatically putting in 12 damage before that guy even connects. So it was fun finding a use for Mage Slayer, and it worked really well in the deck. So all this stuff really contributes towards the overall theme. After that, we've got to do Destruction and Mana Ramp. The deck has Oblivion Stone as its lone form of mass removal, and ideally you should be able to like stomp all over like token decks, but token decks can be an issue. Keep that in mind when you're making your threat assessment. Beast Within, Chaos Warp, Ovenwald Tracker should work really well if you're making plenty of big dudes. Nature's Claim, Hull Breach, Deglamour. Scavenging Ooze is your lone form of Graveyard Hate. Unravel the Aether, Vandal Blast, Duplicant, Tectonic Edge, and Strip Mine. Both of these are good because people do play Maze of Ith, and it's super annoying to have your super huge dude get Maze of Ith. You'll notice a lot of this stuff is pretty similar to what I was running with the Borborygmos deck from last week. And then we have our mana ramp, Mana Vault, Soul Ring, Sakura Tribe Elder, Raphelos. Survival doesn't belong in there. Survivor is more like a utility card. Survival is good just for like being able to tutor stuff up when you have sneak attack and stuff like that, or Elvish Piper. We've got 3 visits, Nature's Lore, Grim Monolith, Yavimaya Elder, Wood Elves, Oracle of Moldiah, Mana Crypt, and Xenagos, the Reveler, who contributes towards ramp. But I just thought it was cool to have the Planeswalker in the God deck, and I managed to get both of them out a couple times and at the same time. And people are like, "Ooh, Flavor Fail," and I'm like, "No, that's just awesome, dude. He's there in both forms." Now you'll notice that there's no Cultivate or Kodama's Reach, and you would think that with a 5 mana commander, you'd really want both of those cards. My problem was that if we look at, let's just look at the stats here. The average CMC of the deck is 3.75. I was getting really heavy in the 3-drop spot, and I didn't have much in the way of 2-drops. And so that's why stuff like 3 Visits and Nature's Lore made the cut, and Sakura Tribe Elder over Sky Shroud Claim and Cultivate and stuff like that. The average CMC is high because we're playing with some really high casting cost dudes, a bunch of stuff that costs over 10 mana, and 6 and 7 mana there as well. And then the low casting cost artifacts like Mana Vault and Soul Ring need to be in here so that we can get like a turn 2 or turn 3 Xenagos if at all possible. Looking at the lands, there's 38 lands in the deck. Diamond Valley is a good sack outlet when you need life later on. And then Spine Rock Knoll is good along with Mosswort Bridge because you are going to be hitting people hard with big dudes. And then Reliquary Tower is definitely necessary because you will have times when you draw huge amounts of cards, just tons of cards. So there we go. That's the deck. You know, the funny thing is that the deck can really. Oh, no, I'll go ahead and do this by converted mana cost. The deck can really like come out of nowhere if Xenagos is in play, and people tend to like be like, okay, well, it's just Xenagos, that he's not going to have much out there, and then all of a sudden you're just going to come out with massive monsters out of nowhere. And it has a huge surprise factor. Once you do that once, though, people are going to figure it out really quick. You know, so part of the issue is that while it does have huge dudes, it doesn't have a lot of them. And so you will go through time periods where you're not going to be drawing many cards, and therefore you're not going to reach your dudes, and you're just going to sit around and twiddle your thumbs. Yes, that does happen, and I'm sorry to say that. Now, we could talk about some of the creatures that didn't make the cut. There are lots of big dudes out there, and obviously I don't care about the huge or the X-Spell guys, because there's a bunch of X-Spell guys as much. But like, a lot of these guys just don't do enough. Yes, you could have played with more Eldrazi, like, not Emrakul, but It That Betrays or Ulamog, but I really just wanted Kozilek because I wanted to be able to draw cards if I needed him. There's the Colossus guys, Blightsteel. I felt Putrefax was fun. Blightsteel just seems like overkill. Some of these other guys just don't. Colossus of Akros, like, they just don't fit the theme. Terastodon, maybe. Scar Goliath was in the deck for a little bit, but it just didn't do enough. It was a 9/9 Trampler. Greater Gargadon, Terra Stomper, Sylvos I tried to stick in here, just didn't do enough. A lot of these guys, Moldgraft Monstrosity, maybe. It was tough. Actually, the one card I wanted to get in but didn't was Hydra Omnivore, because if you can turn him into a 16/16 Trampler, he can really hurt people. But I just couldn't find enough room for him. But that's a guy that you should consider if you get it. All right. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this. This was a very gruel deck. It's all about smashing face and like smashing people, and doing it out of nowhere with crazy speed. And hopefully, I know all the games videos of this deck aren't that great, so maybe I'll play it some more at some point in the future. All right. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks a ton. All right.